arvo, and what should have been probably my lightest day of this week, because I only have the one class and the rest of the time is scheduled meetings with my faculty. The deputy a week ago cancelled my meeting with one of my staff, which didn't turn out to be a big deal because a member of staff was going to be out with a school group. She was going out to one of the local community groups that support our students, our Aboriginal students. She often goes to support the students. The deputy made a meeting with me to try and work out timetable stuff, because the boss wanted it, for Year 10 to have taster lessons of the subjects they think they might be interested in for next year. Because the current Year 11, apparently a ridiculous amount of them changing subjects at the start of this year. So they said, we've got to stop that. We need to have the kids have a bit more of an idea of what the subjects are about. So let's have taster lessons. And they asked the kids to nominate subjects that they wanted to do. And their year advisor set up a Google form for the kids to put all their subjects in. They didn't need to pick maths or English because they have to do English, and they said probably a good idea that you all do maths, but you know what maths is like anyway. Select 5 or 6 other subjects and a reserve. They made up a timetable. Like, they got all the kids' data in just on a Google form, created class lists, and just sort of compared the kids to see what subjects could go together. And they basically created a 5-period timetable, so the kids would all do 5 subjects on the Wednesday of week 3 next term, the first Wednesday. On the Wednesday of week 3 next term. But then there were some kids who had clashes in that sort of a lineup, and so on the Thursday 1 and 2 there was going to be exploring early childhood and then music, and on the Friday 1 and 2 hospitality and then photography. And when I looked at what they'd basically done, I said, this timetable looks perfect. Why don't you just tell the kids what they've got and they go to those things? And the deputy said, no, the boss wants all the kids to have an individual timetable, so it says this is what they have on the Wednesday and possibly Thursday, Friday. And they want to be able to give a copy of that timetable to the parents on parent-teacher night, which is in the last week of term, I think. And they said, Damien should be able to do something in the timetable software. So starting period 2, I started on that, took a copy of the timetable, cleared everything off it, called the file Year 10 tasters so nothing would get confused with the current timetable when I was working on my laptop to be completely separate. I just took the Google sheet that they created, took all the data into one sheet so that I could add the class codes and basically create an import file that I would use like at the end of the year for the start of the next year. This sense of stress of having to have this done, and I did that. Period 2 recess, period 3, period 4 lunch. Like our hospo class runs a cafe at lunch, and I was looking forward to it and forgot. Still managed to get fed because I got a message to them at the end. I finally got the timetables created. I basically just did a thing just for Year 10, just for that day, or just for that part of the week, week A. Added all the staff that were nominated to be running the classes, and I just took each staff member's regular room if they had one. Created printout timetables for the kids. We're having so many network issues today. The phones were only working inside the school. You couldn't do phone calls out. Emails started to muck up. I tried printing something thinking I was printing to the printer downstairs in the office. Nothing happened, so I emailed it to one of the office ladies. She couldn't open it, and it was just a PDF file, but I wouldn't let her open it. And my battery started to die on the laptop, so I just said and then they wanted class roles for that one period. there was no way of getting all of the rolls out in one file to print. So I ended up running back up to the staff room so I could plug my laptop in, and I tried printing out one roll, went across to the printer, and sitting on the printer was the timetables that I printed from the office. So they'd gone to the staff room printer. But then when I was printing the class rolls, I could only print them one at a time, and to print them from the timetable software, it's a 3-click process. Actually 4 clicks. Click the class, from a drop-down list it would open up their roll. Press print, it would open up a dialogue. Press the print down the bottom of that, and then it would open up another screen. Press the print button, it would then print it. Then I could select the next class. Print, print, print. Click, print, print, print. For 30 rolls that it got done. So they're going to make multiple photocopies of those. My brain feels fried. The last few days have been fairly cool and brisk. While not supremely cold, it was 4 degrees up here now. It wasn't quite as cold yesterday, but it was colder down at work, because it usually does get that way. But today's the I think the first frost I've seen for the season, and we don't usually get frost at our place because of where we sit. But I think with my neighbour clearing so much of his yard, it allows the cold air to come up from the valley so much easier. So I could see frost on the grass behind his block this morning. I wish I had the camera because the sky looked beautiful this morning, but I was in a rush. I was getting out of the house, I noticed frost in the backyard, which is not usual. Not right down in the bottom, but up at the top part where the air could probably blow up. When I got out into the front yard, not so much the internal front yard, but once you got out to the driveway, strip of grass right up on the corner of the driveway was just white. And the only reason I took notice of that was because I had to manhandle the trailer around to be able to hook it up so I could take the trailer down to work. Because long story short, actually probably long story long, earlier this year the boss had asked me about removing the stuff from one of my storerooms, because one of my storerooms used to be a boys' toilets. It has never been a boys' toilets since I've been at the school, which is 21 years. But our numbers are starting to grow and we need more toilets around the school. So we've been getting, there's some girls' ones in the upstairs of the block. We started getting those ready to use with the cafe so that there was toilets for the cafe. But we want to just get them fixed up so that it becomes a changing room for the hospo kids and also a toilet use generally. So that's the process. So I'd already had in my head I need to start moving stuff out of that storeroom. And there's stuff for metalwork which I want to just take down the trade school. There's stuff for woodwork which I'm going to just move into the storeroom next door. But there's a few things that are going to be difficult to move. I think it's a 7 foot by 3 foot flammable cabinet. Now they're solid steel, heavy. I need to move that. There's another cupboard which I could probably dismantle or move. I've got some shelving which will have to be dismantled to get out. And I've got a rack for some sheet goods, like smaller sheet goods. I've been asked to move it by next Wednesday because apparently Kappa have a Kappa showcase that they do every year. And for this year, they ordered new easels and new acoustic type panels for hanging artworks on and set up. And apparently they're very long, large, and Kappa don't have the space for it. Whereas I seem to have an abundance of space. And to be honest, I do have a decent amount of storage, and some of it's not that well organised. In order to move the stuff from that storeroom into my wood storeroom, I need to get all the construction timber that's still sitting on the floor from there to the container. In order to get them into the container, I need to get all the old bikes and stuff out of the container and into the trailer to take for scrap. Because the bike program that we had initially wanted to start kind of just fell over. I had another staff member ask about it, and I told him I had all these bikes, and then he showed no more interest in it. I've been asked to get rid of it, try and get my kids to get the bikes into the trailer, and then the container already has some racks that swing out, but because all those bikes are there, they can't. Swing them out, and then we can store all the construction timber on those racks, because they go the length of the container, which is 20 foot. Timber I've got is 3 meters, so that's plenty of space for that. So if I can do that, then I've got 2 old steel cabinets in that storeroom that don't have much in there at all. I could probably get rid of those and replace them with the ones from the other storeroom. A bit of switching and moving to be done. I will be annoyed if it just becomes a Kappa storeroom and doesn't get turned back into toilets. I've already moved stuff out of one of when we had a shared storeroom so that Kappa could have it all. They also want to try and reclaim my side of the construction ceramic space. Many years ago, we built a dividing wall between the 2 areas so that construction kids wouldn't get into the art kids stuff, art kids wouldn't get into the construction stuff because there was tools, because that would happen. They would like to reclaim that space. They said, what about the old room of one of my other staff, like the old metalwork room? What's in there? It's just got stuff stored in. I said, yeah, but that's not mine. Other people just started chucking stuff in there because it wasn't being used at the time, and it just became ridiculous. I've been chasing people to get that stuff out. I've got my shelf set up in there. I've got my new machines in there, which I desperately want to use. I've been dismantling all these other tables that just got put in there and nobody else has wanted. And I said, well, look, if I can get a door put in the car park side of that room, going out to the car park, and you move that fence from my construction space up an extra 2 bays, like past my container, so my container's inside the construction area, and go straight across there, that will allow me to use that room for construction and timber, because they're never on at the same time. It means if I need to prepare materials for construction, I've got the tools to use, and we can still use our construction area. And if it's still got the fence there, then the kids can't, because they said that locked door is going to have to be lockable from the inside. And I said, well, if the fence is there, then it doesn't, because they worry about kids sneaking out that door and taking off from the school. I said, if you do that for me, we can get everything out from the construction space, and that can be theirs. We'll remove the wall, that can become a big ceramics room. I said, it's just that they can't use the outside construction zone area. They've taken that idea seriously, because the business manager came over yesterday and said, I saw her out of the corner of my eye while I was teaching the class, and she said, yep, she was just checking where the door would have to go, because the very first bay spot, which would be perfect, there's the air conditioning unit on the outside, but the second one, she said they could do a doorway there, and assets are actually coming out to the school today for something else, but they're going to have a look at that while they're there. Lots to happen, but the first thing is the storerooms, but trying to find the time. They said, look, just get the GA to do it. I said, if I get the GA to do it, he'll chuck stuff out that he doesn't know anything about, or I won't know where anything is. For me to say, this has got to go there, this, I know that. He doesn't. And he will ruin something, I'm sure, because it's happened before. Not with this GA, but a previous GA. I saw a whole stack of my stools stored in the shed out the back, because one of my teachers didn't like stools in his room. And the GA went and swapped them for plastic chairs for the hall, without consulting me at all. And I've never been able to get those stalls replaced. And that was years ago. I kind of don't like the idea of using the same room for construction and timber. The whole idea of having that bigger room for timber was space for the projects, away from junior students. And if I have a year 11 and 12 timber and a year 11 and 12 construction, that's 4 classes using that room, which is good use of the room. There's some things in there that construction kids shouldn't be around, like the CNC, the table saw. I can just see something getting damaged. Sometimes change has to happen. Sometimes change just has to happen. That's that job done. That's all dynabolted to the ground, to the concrete slab, so it's safe. It's got the safety bars at the front. The kids have been stacking up the slabs on there. The lower shelf is going to be reserved for all those heavier slabs there, and this one which was on it, but I had to move it so that I could do in the bolts, which you can see there. It took a while, but I'm glad that finally got done. I had to stop at Bunnings on the way in this morning to buy that really long SDS drill bit, because the longest one I had wasn't long enough because of the fact that the bolt holes were right in the bottom of those leg frames. Couldn't get down far enough, but it's done now. And the few year 12 boys who were here helped me to get all the bikes out of the container, load them up into here. I am not taking it today, but I will strap it down tomorrow and take it with me tomorrow afternoon. Hopefully, hang on, I'm deputy tomorrow. I might not be able to leave in time to get across to the, no, I should do. The metal recyclers closes at 4:30, so they actually close at 5, and I think 4:45 is the latest they'll let people through the gate. So hopefully I'll get there.